that we call The Page Season 2. Well, we're in the second season. Season 2, The Block. And we are here today to take a look at the third and final book from M.K. Jemisin's Broken Earth trilogy, The Stone Sky. And I didn't talk to you about this, LB. Oh, by the way, LB's here too. Wait, no. I have to give you a proper introduction. Ladies and gentlemen.
Damn, I thought we missed it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know, I don't do this show ever alone. I don't dare. I have someone with me that is beautiful, talented, whimsical, magical, and all that in a bag of fluffy bunnies. Aww. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you my co-host, the beautiful, the talented, the one and only LB. How's it going, LB?
I think that intro is getting longer and longer. Also, why are the bunnies in a bag?
I don't know.
I have questions for you. I have questions, caveman.
You have questions for me now. Well, I love bunnies, and I love bringing them everywhere I go, and I have to bring them along in a bag. I mean, they're comfortable. It's like it's like you know,
it's like a transport bag. It's not
it's you know, it has an alternate dimension in it. It's like the Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. Yeah. There's big bunnies. There's pink bunnies.
You got
blue.
What is that? Bag of plenty or something?
Yeah. Bag of plenties. Yeah. So we're here to talk about the third and last book of the Broken Earth trilogy, and
The Stone Sky.
The Moon.
So just so you know, guys, Caveman here has been periodically texting me throughout this entire month, just saying the moon.
The moon.
Because last season, if you've been carrying
last episode, not last season. It feels like that.
Yeah, not last season. Whew, boy, it's been a day.
Yeah.
But the last episode for this, I went off on the fact that we were anticipating having the moon be present, and it was not, and I was upset.
Yeah.
But we're going to get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Just FYI for everybody listening, definitely some spoilers.
Oh yeah.
Here.
Spoilers ahead.
Hold back with the spoilers.
I will.
So hopefully you've read ahead.
Yeah.
And you can join us.
I will retype the title out and everything in the description because Facebook was doing a weird before we actually went live here. So I will repost the title and all that. I'll make sure to do the edits, the proper edits when this video flips, when this episode flips over. So let's give everybody a brief synopsis, LB, and then let's get into your first check mark.
A brief synopsis?
A brief history, like a brief.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, okay, so The Stone Sky, it's the third of 3 books. Oh boy, we're off on a good start, aren't we?
Yeah.
In the Broken Earth series, where we are placed in a land that basically this planet is torn apart. It has 5 seasons, which are basically like cataclysmic events that happen throughout time that throw society into a whirlwind, basically.
Yeah.
And we have these clans, we have origins, which are magical people, and they have been oppressed in the society. Yeah. They're taken away as children and basically abused by the system. And there's lots of ties that you can see crossed over to society today as well.
Yeah.
We start this book in right after we had a battle in a crystal city, basically, around, which was very cool. And we also join up with Nasin, who is Essen's daughter.
Yeah.
Both Nasin and Essen are origins, so they are magical people. And Nasin is she's sort of reeling from the fact that she killed her father, who was origin-y. And she is off to the other side of the world, which is called Core Point. And there's basically origins, Sills, guardians and stone eaters.
Yeah.
Stills are like normal people. Origins, as we said, those are magical people.
Yeah.
Guardians are the guardians of origins.
Yeah.
And we get to learn a little bit more about them in this book.
Yeah.
And stone eaters are sort of related to origins. And again, we get to learn more about them in this book as well. Which is
Way too much.
Way too much. Oh, okay.
Way too much.
And yeah, so we follow their journey. We
Yeah.
followed Nathan's journey up to Renais, and we follow Essen's journey over to, or I got that wrong, didn't I?
Yeah.
Essen's journey over to Renais, Nathan's journey over to Core Point, and how they are able to lasso the moon back
Yeah.
to Earth. And we get a lot more history on sort of what happened, because in the previous books we were more dealing with what was going on,
Yeah.
but not an awful lot of why the world was like this in the first place.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
got
yeah,
a lot more history.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
this
yeah.
book. And yeah, so I guess we'll dive into it.
Yeah,
What do you
give me-
have as your first check mark?
So my first check mark is, well, it's your first check mark. Yeah, I'm passing it over to you. That's right.
Okay, so I feel like you're going to disagree with me here. But my very first check mark is the Sil Anagus,
Okay.
which is basically the third narrative that we get throughout this book of Hoa and how he began and the history of stone eaters, I guess, and really diving into that. Now, I will say it's a bit late in the game to introduce another storyline like this. It's in the third book. So the third book is really where we're seeing a lot of ends tied up and all that sort of stuff. However, I really did enjoy reading through the parts of Sil Anagus because it, like, these are honestly my favorite parts in the book, because we got to see a lot more of why is the world like this? Okay, what is this magic? What is its origin? How did that come about? So I really enjoyed seeing that. I really enjoyed seeing how we had some original stone eaters. We had, like, I think 8 or 6. I can't quite remember.
I think at one point there were 13. Like 13. Like there were way more.
Right, yeah. There
yeah.
were 13, and then they sort of got called out for whatever, for not being good enough or speaking up too loudly or what have you. But I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing how the cities were like living cities and how they made all these really cool stuff, and just learning all about that. I thought it was a really great addition to the book. Initially, I was like, oh my God, we have another storyline. Why? kind of thing. But I was hopeful that we would learn more about the Stone Eaters, because that was something that we really didn't know an awful lot about. We weren't sure what was going on with that. And we did learn a lot more about that. They became more fully fledged characters. Hoa became more of a fully fledged character. We got some more emotion in there. So I liked it. I really liked that section, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we learned within there. But I really enjoyed Sil Anagus and how that storyline was incorporated into the book. How about you? What was your first check mark?
My first check mark is I'm just being silent. It's like it's not like I'm very conflicted. I'm very conflicted in this book. With this book, I'm very, very conflicted. There are some points that it sucked me right in, and at some points there were more often than not points I just wanted to just walk away. And honestly, I wanted to, like, in the middle of the book, I almost messaged you and like, I can't do this. I can't do this. Yeah. But this is going to be very, very interesting, good television, as the young kids say. But I will agree with you when that started to...
The young kids say television at all. Oh my God.
yeah, television. The young kids say
You're
television.
only a couple thousand years old.
Well, 5,000, yeah. So, but I will agree with you that us going back and learning about the city being fully fleshed out and all that kind of stuff is, I really enjoyed learning about that. It's just the disconnect of, for me, that I have, like you said, it felt like it came too late in the book. And
Yeah.
it felt like when she was going back, it really was delaying the narrative going forward, because we had to stop, we had to go back, and you guys have
But
heard.
it sort of echoes what happened in the first book, right? In the 5th season, we had the timeline jumping all over the place.
Yeah, but
So it sort of harkened back to that, but it wasn't quite the same, was it?
no, it wasn't the same. And my problem, and we're going to get to this in my negatives, my problem was the Stone Eaters themselves. Learning about them.
Okay.
Learning about them. I do not need to know where Darth Vader came from. And
Yes, you do.
No, I really don't. And
It's a whole, like, 2 movies. Come on.
and I just feel like it could have been handled a little bit better. Where she was, we're getting off the beaten path. So my first positive, my check mark is everything we got with Essun and Shafa. I love that part of the story, and I love that relationship and the dynamic, and we got a lot of growth, I thought, with the both of them. And
Yeah.
I love their talking to each other, and the dialogue, their growth, their development as a two. I really enjoyed this blossoming relationship that the two of them had, and the love that they had for each other. You really felt it in the book. So that's my first check mark.
Nice. Yeah, no, I agree. The relationship that Shafa and Essen, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get this wrong throughout this whole entire thing.
Yeah, Essun and
Shafa and
Nassen.
Nassen.
Oh, I got it wrong
So
too.
similar names.
Yeah, stupid similar names.
What they have is great, and I love the connection there. And there's sort of an undertone of, like, this is going to go completely random, but there's an undertone there of, like, okay, because Shafa, as Essen knows him, is a manipulative, abusive man, basically. Yeah. He's working within a system, and we learn a little bit more about him, and how, I mean, there's sort of an overarching, not lesson, but there's an overarching, like, theme in here of, like, not love conquers all, but for love it's worth it kind of thing. And that's what gets you through life. Because there's this kind of philosophical question that's posed where it's like, okay, well, these people live forever. Yeah. Like, they live forever. Yeah. So is that a curse? Is that a blessing? Is that something that you would actually want to pose on your worst enemy? Probably not. However, it's how you use that time. And it's really explicitly stated, right? Because we have Rempois, who does not like that. He freaking hates it. He's a very negative, well, he's a Stone Eater, but he's a very negative person. We get that feeling from him all throughout the book. He's a very, very negative person. Yeah. He focuses on those bad things. He's always complaining, always having that sort of attitude. And versus Shafa, as we see him in this book, he focuses on the love of it. And even in the first book, even when we see him being this, like, complete psychopath, like, to be honest, we still see that he is caring for his charges. He is loving them. Even if it's because he's getting something from them, or because he's supposed to, or even while he's breaking their hand, he still loves them. Yeah. And so that's something that we've brought up time and time again with each of these books, is the depiction of characters and how they have their own traumas and how they bring that forward and interact with the world from that. Yeah. Because we have, in the last book, we had, in the Obelisk Gate, we had that direct, I guess, line drawn between Shafa and Essen of, like, Essen was that same negative person to Nassen that Shafa was to Essen. Yeah. because she's only working from what she has, and she's like, okay, well, this is what I was taught. You need to survive in this world. In order to survive in this world, these are the things that you need to know. These are hard truths. These are, and she put herself in that position. And then from that, Nathan doesn't really have a mother figure because she didn't get that love.
Yeah.
She didn't get that nurturing. So it's interesting to see then Shafa be that person to give her the love and the nurturing that she needs.
Yes.
And that care. Even though we as the reader know that he's being this like psychopathic person beforehand. So it sort of raises questions of like, okay, well, can abusers be, rehabilitated or what have you? But there's this whole thing of like Shafa just having major memory loss, right?
Well, he's fighting a lot within himself. Like the earth is saying, you have to kill this person. And he's like, I'm not killing this person. I love her.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your?
I thought that was really interesting. My next check mark. Sorry, I just went on a.
That's okay.
But okay, so my next check mark is the travel through the earth that we have with Nathan and Shafa.
Yeah.
In that
was so. Oh my god, that was so heartbreaking. That was so heartbreaking.
Oh my god.
That was
and
I
was on the edge of my seat reading it. Well, I was reading in bed.
Yeah.
So not on the edge of my seat,
yeah.
but it was really quite riveting, that section. And I loved how like they had even just like the vehicle. That was
the
so
vehicle.
Cool. And like,
you mean the vehicle?
The vehicle, yeah,
the
not the vehicle, the vehicle.
The vehicle.
That they have. And I thought that was really interesting. I really loved the technology in that. That's another point for me. But just to travel through the earth, how all of that sort of transpires, and then how they actually had Father Earth, I guess, communicate with Nathan.
Hello, little enemy.
Really cool how that was done.
Yeah,
exactly. Creepy. But like it really created yet again another complex character that was the earth itself. Yeah. I thought that was really cool. I thought it was really cool how it was even brought up, like it's not the actual entirety of the earth, it's this core of nickel or whatever the metal is in the middle of the earth, and it shines brightly and it's got all these facets to it, and all the faces of the guardians that were like brought back, and oh my god. So I really love that. I really love the travel through the earth, and we do it a couple of times too with Hoa, and in the book, we do a couple travel back and forth. But that travel with Nathan and Shafa, absolutely amazing. I really like that part.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So what's your next check mark, or what do you have to say on that?
I agree. It was a gut punch. It was a real gut punch for me, because MK has done such a good job with both of these characters building their relationship up, that I really cared about these two. And I'm like, when Shaf was like, I'm friend, I'm like, oh no, and like, I just love that. I love that. I know.
And we had this sense of foreboding all the way up to it, right?
Yeah.
Like we had all of that moment there. We had that guilt too, that Shafa was feeling that he didn't actually do what he could have done to like help out Nathan, like create that thing. And like, oh my god. And he knew that he wasn't supposed to go.
Yeah.
He knew something was wrong with it, but he didn't know what, but he still went against that feeling.
Yeah.
To go and be with Nathan, to go and help her, to be with her, and it was heartbreaking. It really was.
Yeah, I know. That goes my first check mark. I love this story. I love this story. This story through. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of it, but that's my ex.
No, we don't.
Yeah, but I love this storyline. And I agree with you. I agree with you. So anyway, my next check mark. And listen, I'm going to be the bearer of bad news here. I think this is going to be our first big divide here. I don't have a lot of I don't have a lot other check marks. But
Okay.
um, my second check mark, is going to go off of your check mark. I loved when we explored Core Point back when. So we went all the way back and we got to see, vehicles, we got to see vehicles, we got to see the big, vibrant city and everything around our characters. I loved. Like to see this big, lush, vibrant city come to life. MK does a really good job describing her world, and I think I think she does a really good job, and I loved it. It just really nice to see that. Especially I'm hearing all this city come to life. So they did Audible did a very good job in bringing this book to life in audibly. But yeah, I really enjoyed the city and how she was able to bring all this stuff back to life and go back when and do all that kind of stuff. And that's probably going to be my last check mark.
Okay. Okay, yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'll jump off of that because I know I already said that I loved that section, but what I really enjoyed was there was these moments that like it's like N.K. Jemisin has made this world which is sort of believable. There's magic. It's very much like the continents have all shifted.
Yeah.
There's all this stuff that's going on. It's very much not our world.
Yeah.
However, there are pieces that are thrown in there that are like, oh, this is like New York 5,000 years in the future kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like they have like a museum that's there.
Yeah.
That's regular stone and mortar. That like we're supposed to sort of recognize that sort of building, but it's strange to this ancient people even then. So it's like this world is years and years and years and years and years in the future. But I loved how how do I phrase this? The like evilness of the Sil-Enegus people.
Yeah.
Because we get introduced to them and life is sacred. Yeah. There's this that's their overarching sort of mission statement, if you will. But life is sacred, right? So we're like, okay, great, awesome, amazing. So they have, and so like in knowing these cities that are like grown, basically, it's like, oh wow, like the environment and cities and people living in it are living in harmony, and isn't that beautiful, and that sort of stuff. And then we sort of get this background story of the Stone Eaters, and okay, that's kind of not right. And then we find out what the Briar Patch is, right? Like what that sort of, and it's those ancient peoples of the Nies that have not been killed, but have been basically, I got major like Matrix vibes. Yeah. That are being just like harvested, basically. And it was like, it's like that like, like when you're watching a movie and you have like a psychopath in there and there's that one sort of twist over where it's like they're smiling and now you're scared of their smile. Yeah. Kind of thing. So like I really liked that intro to sort of how they were and that sort of stuff, and how a simple idea like all life is sacred can be twisted so much that it is really bad. And then they're like, okay, well, we're going to make it so that the earth is like making this energy forever and it'll be great, blah, 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 blah. But they don't think that the earth is a living, breathing thing, even though it seems so obvious within their society, right? And of course, that's something that's a parallel to our society. Yeah. So I really loved that. And I guess within that is the idea of magic and originy and how those two work together and how the guardians work with the metal shards, how that's a piece of the earth. I really loved how all of those points were brought together and how they were told in the story. I thought it was really well done. Like, the magic system in this is understated in a way, but also it's not. It's like a major part of the book, obviously, but it's just really well done. I'm really, really happy with the magic system in there. And I guess I'm trying to like fly through some of my check marks here.
No, it's okay. You don't have to. You don't have to.
Traveling through the earth.
Yeah.
I know I already mentioned this, but just the earth as a character in and of itself.
Yeah.
And as like a complicated character, and one that isn't, because I think initially we were introduced sort of as the earth having like emotions a little bit, but the emotion is mainly anger. The earth is angry. That's what we're getting, and it's sort of more of a phrase than like a character trait. And then in this one, we literally have Nathan having a conversation with the earth.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's a moment where there's sort of a compromise that happens, and we're like, okay, so it's not just this almighty being that's immovable. It's a character. It really is.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. I have two other points in here.
Okay.
And the second one is going to lead into an X that I have, because it's sort of a check mark and an X.
Okay.
So we'll go that way. But I guess my last full check mark is the frickin' moon. We see it finally. Thank fuck.
The moon. The moon.
I was gonna get mad.
The moon.
The moon.
Oh, I thought you were gonna get mad regardless.
It's actually present.
I thought you were gonna get regardless. At the end, I thought you were gonna get. Thought you were gonna call me back, and you're like, "Fucking moon, bullshit."
Fucking moon. But it's there. It appears. It's there. We didn't get space pirates. That's okay. I got super excited in the first book.
You lied to me. You lied to me.
There wasn't. I didn't lie to you.
You said you got me.
Okay.
No. You said space pirates. You got me excited.
I know. I got myself excited.
Yeah.
So that didn't happen. It didn't go that direction, but that's okay. It's fine. What was really cool, and I got really excited for, was in a Silenigus chapter, was when they got into a vehicle that went up to the moon. We had space flight.
Yeah.
We were on the moon. That happened. So that was awesome. I loved seeing that section. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at the very end of the book, we have the moon coming.
LB, you're muffled a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Let me see.
Is that better?
I don't know what's going on. Oh no. Yeah, I can hear you better now. No, you're still muffled a little bit.
Is this a little better?
I think your volume's down, or your mic's probably.
Can you hear me though?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me. I'm just muffled. Okay.
Yeah, you're just muffled.
My volumes are up.
All right.
Like,
let me.
Better. I haven't changed anything.
Wait, let me see. Hey Siri, raise volume.
I can't help with that while you're on a call.
All right, my volume is.
I guess I need to.
No, my volume is down.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, my volume just went down. I have no idea why. All right, so let me wait.
Siri decided she needed to shut me up.
No.
Play.
Let me.
Play.
Can I? Oh, okay. No, let's just roll with it. It's fine. It's fine. I can hear.
Okay.
I can. We're sorry for this.
We're good.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. It's the beauty of being live, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the moon shows up, and what I thought was really cool too was I didn't even think about this, but it was like apparent when it happened. Was Essen's there, and she recognizes this moon, like it freaks her out at first because she's like, holy crap, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
But she's recognizing it, and so that's really cool. But then when Essen comes over to the opposite side of the world, the moon is like, bam, right there. It's
Yeah.
full moon right in your face, probably super close to the Earth. And over on the other side of the world, it's ash in the sky. So they haven't actually been able to see the sky
Yeah.
for months, right? So it's so interesting because like she comes over and she's like, oh, yeah, well, I knew it was happening, but like it's right there kind of thing. So that was really cool. And the other part that I liked about that, it's a simple thing, but I feel like it could have been missed, but it made the believability of it there. How Nassen is like going to go and do her thing at sunset, and Essen is going to go and do her thing at sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
And they're on opposite sides of the world, and so of course when they go over and they meet, they're at the same time point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciated that, just a little thing, right?
Right.
But yeah, so the freaking moon showed up.
Yeah.
Got it. Good job. I was just happy that it was there.
Yeah.
And my absolute last check mark, unless you want to say anything on that.
I mean, I do like the fact the moon showed up at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I do have some qualms with that ending, though.
Okay.
And it'll probably go into your ex because I think I know what you're gonna. Well, I don't think I know what you're gonna say, but we'll see.
You know.
What?
I don't think you do, but
No, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't think I know what you're gonna say, but I have some qualms with that ending. The moon is just a big. I don't know. I'll let you finish, but it was you're right. It is good that the moon was there and we got some closure with that.
it actually showed up.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was just so worried that we were gonna get another ending like the other two. Like,
Yeah.
Yes, the moon is coming.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's not off. But my last check mark, which is gonna flow into an X, is Alabaster's Diary.
Yeah.
I actually really liked that being there because it gave us a little bit more insight. I think why I like it and why I like the other stuff is because we got a little bit more closure. We got some answers to questions that we had in previous books, and it wasn't explicitly like exposition. Like obviously it was kind of a bit of exposition, but it was a creative way of doing it. Because sometimes you just have to tell the audience something in order for stuff to make sense in the book. And it was a creative way of doing it. I liked it. It made it so that we got a little taste of Alabaster in this book as well. So that was cool. I was kind of worried that Alabaster was going to come back as a Stone Eater, but we didn't get that, which that's my sticking point here is, okay, so we saw Alabaster in his diary.
Yeah.
We saw a little bit more sensitive side to him in this, and it tied back into when Nassen went there, and all of a sudden there's this apartment there, and it made more sense instead of just having it sat there and be like, oh, look how convenient. It's to know, okay, Alabaster was there beforehand. This is sort of a repetition of events that's happening. It makes sense. But what I didn't like, or rather what I really liked, was the format of Alabaster's Diary. Now, you're not going to have the same thing because it was written in like a different font.
Yeah.
There was different aspects to it. There was like a drawing in one thing. What I thought was really cool and added some character trait was in his diary. It's clear that he's not very comfortable with spelling. So there's words that are written and then crossed out and then written again. And I thought that was cool, but we literally don't have anything else like that in the rest of the book. And it just, with that, paired with Philanagus, paired with, like introducing all of this stuff, it just felt like it was a bit much of like too new stuff happening, because yes, it's its own book in and of its own right. Like it's still like 500 pages or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot in there.
I'm gonna, LB, my HomePod's doing a weird thing. Can I just call you right back? I'm gonna readjust it and
Yeah,
call
go
you
for
right
it.
immediately. All right. Hey, sir, hang up.
Play.
Hey, Siri, raise volume 50%. No.
Play.
No.
Increase volume. Increase volume.
Hey, Siri, pause. No. Hey, Siri, raise volume 50%.
Okay, media will play louder.
Hey, Siri, what time is it?
It's 7:03 p.m.
Yeah. Hey, Siri, call LB.
Calling LB. Home.
Hello?
Hello?
Hey,
There we go.
are we better now?
Yeah, we're a little bit better. I still don't know what's going on with my HomePod. But, yeah, let's continue.
Be an episode of the page without some technical errors with it.
Yeah. All I have to say, it's LB, the curse is back.
Yeah, the curse is back. I
So-
think we had one episode.
Yeah.
That wasn't.
So what's your, you were going on your ex. So, with
Yeah,
the journal.
Out of Alabaster's Diary, it's just like that, and there just seems to be too many new things that are introduced in this book where I feel like, I mean, I'm not super mad at it because, of course, you know, we already talked about Stone Island Gifts and how it is new and it's like, maybe, but then it made sense to have it and it gave us closure on certain things. So important, yes, but I don't know. It felt like, okay, you're adding in this extra stuff.
Yeah.
So you don't need to add in this extra stuff.
Yeah, that's what I felt like as well. I'm gonna jump off your ex.
Please do.
Way too much. She added way too much at the end. Just, you don't have to. It's your last book in this series. If you wanted to do that, make sure the first two books were a little bit, couple chapters bigger, so you can have room to add all this stuff in. But this is your last book, and throwing more information at us did not help me in this book, enjoy this book anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes outside of don't add this in the other books because the other books have so much going on in them already.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it's hard to say. Like I feel like the Still Anaga stuff was important.
Yeah.
And it needed to be explained, and there was all that sort of stuff. Alabaster's Diary, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
But
and at the end too.
Actually introduce while still making it be a cohesive story.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're not introducing a new idea and then dropping it quickly after, because then it's like, well, what the heck was that about?
Yeah.
Right? Like, so you need to have it be a cohesive part of the story as well. So obviously this is all opinion, but
yeah,
you just felt like it was too much.
So
what's your next X? What's your
for my first X is I love the magic system. I love them, and I guess my real first X is over explaining everything.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm fine not knowing everything about the Stone Eaters. I'm fine with that. That wasn't a big question. Oh, I need to learn more about the Stone Eaters, right? Because you explained it, and basically, spoiler alert, they're basically androids. So we figure out, at least that's what I took from this. They're androids. And I did need to learn that. I did not need to learn that. I thought it just ruined the specialness of the Stone Eaters. I agree that you needed to go
Messages
back.
now +1
What?
613-797-1991. Chris, your main apology for eating my bread.
So,
What is going on?
I have no idea. So anyway, so I agree that stuff, yes, a little bit of the origins of the Stony, but not that much. I don't need to learn they were, all right, they're androids now. Then, I mean, what made them cool to me, the Darth Vader effect, I don't need to learn, again, I don't need to learn where Darth Vader came from. Like, all of it. I don't need all the information, right? The reason why Darth Vader was cool, because he's a guy with a cool mask and he's a big fucking bad guy. The Stone Eaters were cool because you didn't know much about them. They had that
It's an air of mystery.
And you're like, okay, they're fucking androids. Okay.
Well, they're more than androids, right? They're like genetically engineered people from a people that were magic or whatever.
Well, I mean, I took it as because they were able to interact with electronic equipment, like the cameras and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, the allusion to androids, that's what, and some other things, that's what I got.
Yeah.
And I didn't need to learn that. I didn't need to know that. Because that mystery is gone for me. That mystery. And also, by doing that, you basically, for me, that's what I got. I can only speak for myself on this. You basically said, when you were giving the origins of the Stone Eaters and all that, and when they with the magic, you basically told me that magic was just this electricity, sort of energy electricity. And I didn't need to know that. It's just, I don't need to, there was things in this book that I needed to know, and she didn't give it to me. There's things that I didn't need to know, but she gave me the answers to, that's when when those stuff came to light, I almost put down the phone and I almost called you and was like, I can't.
Yeah.
For me, it's just, I can only, just my opinion. Just over explaining every little detail about this world. Why? Why can you not have a era mystery? Like, I realize, I acknowledge that you had to explain some things. I acknowledge it.
Yeah.
But explaining everything about your world that you built up for literally $2, for me, it was like, when I was reading it, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's taking away the specialness of what she wrote. She's taking away that. And I didn't like, that's my big X, just her over explaining everything. Not one thing, but everything. So that's my first X.
Yeah, I definitely have an exit similar to that. There's kind of two X's that go along that line, but I'm gonna jump off of that just in terms of with our Silanagus storyline.
Yeah.
Because there are definitely things in there that were like unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's part of the story, right? So,
Right.
okay, how unnecessary is it? However, there was, so like the relationship between Kaleni and Galat, Kaleni being like basically the first origin.
Yeah.
Well, she wasn't the first origin, the Nies people were the first origin. And we learn from this that there's, very clearly there's Nies people that have been sort of, I don't know the word for it, but like they're in society still, like the children of the Nies.
Yeah.
There was people that had babies with the Nies instead of like killing them. But the relationship between Kaleni and Galat, they're supposed to be brother and sister. And it's very fucked up in the first place anyway.
Yeah.
And then we get this, like, it almost feels not forced, but it's just like we have this idea of Kaleni as this strong person.
Right.
As someone who's like her own person, she's created this space for herself. Very clearly, like living within confines and within certain rule structures, but she decides that she's not going to let that dictate herself. And then all of a sudden, because it literally isn't really alluded to or anything, but we have this one scene where Hoa wants to go to the garden. And very clearly, we're shown this because we need to have a reason why the Stone Eaters and why Hoa decide not to completely annihilate the Earth, why they decide to, just sort of destroy Sil Anagus, but not the entire Earth. Because they had made this decision of like, okay, you know what, screw everything, screw everyone, we're gonna destroy it all.
Yeah.
And then Ho was like, okay, well, I love this Kaleni woman, even if she's not with me, even if I'm never gonna see her, I'm gonna try and siphon off some of that power so that she can still exist.
Yeah.
Her child can still exist, and blah blah blah. Right? So like, I get how it's a plot point, but it's just so random.
Yeah.
And it's so like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, like you're like, okay, cool, they're in the garden, and then we have this whole interaction with Kaleni and Galad. It seems completely out of character for Kaleni, although I will say, it's very clear that Galad is like an abusive person.
Yeah.
That he's trying to get his way with her or whatever, and like she's doing her best to manage that in the situation that she's in. So like, yes, in relationships like that, people do change. People are complete shadows of themselves. So like that's accurate to a point, but it's just like, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden she's pregnant with her brother's child,
Yeah.
and you're not going to follow up on that at all?
Yeah.
It's literally one scene, and then we never hear about it again.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to assume that like all origins now are like descendant from that like incest?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck? It was just so random, and so like I felt like it could have been done differently. I don't know. Like obviously part of it was necessary for the plot because it's a big plot point, right?
Yeah.
The world is not destroyed because of that.
Yeah.
But like what?
Yeah.
It totally threw me off. You never go back to it either. Like if you're going to introduce something as huge as that, go back to it. But you can't because you've introduced it in the third book.
Yeah.
You tie up your end. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my first like major X.
So my second major X has to do with the fucking moon. For 3 books. For 3 books, people, we have heard this why the Earth was mad. This is why the Earth was mad. I'm pretty sure you know what I know where I'm going with this. So we learn in this pseudo prologue, this story, that the real reason why the Earth is mad is because the people are from the advanced society were mining the power and electricity and the magic. And that's why the Earth is mad? You just told me for 2.5 books the Earth is mad because the fucking moon was gone. Now that is not the case?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I that is a leap I cannot make with you. You set up a plot for 2 books. You hammered it home. And then you're like, oh, no, actually the Earth is mad because of a totally another thing that is just coming from left field. So that is my second big X, is the plot. The moon, when that is described in the book, and I'm like, okay, you just said, the thing I'm setting up for two books? Yeah, that is sort of irrelevant now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
I just.
I'm only going to argue this because I can see how within the story it kind of makes sense. But I agree with you. I'm just going to state that at the first. Like,
Yeah.
I agree with you. You know, we're told all this stuff, and it's like, you know, although I kind of like how it's not as easy, quotes, easy to, like, just, you know, catch the moon. But it's not as easy as just like, oh, the Earth is mad because the moon is gone. We find out the history of why the moon is gone.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like someone being mad at you because you took their teddy bear, but it's not, you didn't, it's not because they missed the teddy bear why they're mad at you. It's because that teddy bear meant something to them, and when you took their teddy bear, you punched them in the face at the same time. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like,
Oh, for
it's not
sure.
that they're mad that their teddy bear is gone. It's they're mad because of the injustice done to them when you took that.
Yeah, but
Like,
I'm just.
It's sort of.
Oh, go on.
It's sort of like interconnected. I feel like it's like, okay, the Earth, if you will, has like latched onto this idea of, okay, if the moon is back, then I am healed, kind of thing. And so it's like they're angry at that moment, but it's also we learn throughout these books that like history is sort of fluid, and like we're getting these different messages of like, okay, well, this is what happened, but it's not actually what happened, and this is what happened, but that's not like history is rewritten time and time again, and so we sort of uncover layers of it as we go through these books. So I feel like it kind of makes a bit of sense of us learning, like, okay, it wasn't actually about the moon itself. Yes, it wants the moon back because it does throw things out of whack. But the real problem was being mined for resources, etc. However, it would have been great to have more of a lead in with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You know, even with like Alabaster's histories and that sort of stuff of like, you know, there's more to the moon, like there's more to the story of the moon than we know, or whatever. Right?
And we're told, right?
Oh.
Yeah, we're told that Alabaster is more in the know. So he like that would have been the perfect tool to say, you know, it's the moon and it has a lot to do with this. Because we're told in the book that he's a little crazy because he knows all this stuff, but he can't put it quite into words. So he would be the perfect tool to say, you know, it's the moon, but really we're mining resources, and that's why it's mad also.
Yeah.
But we never got that explained properly.
Yeah. Because like the thing is, and the thing that I like, and why I liked Alabaster's diary in the first place, was because we get a better image of Alabaster, not as this like all-knowing person. Like
Yeah.
we get him going through old texts and being frustrated because he can't read some of them, you know, and he's like trying to piece together stuff, but he can't quite, kind of thing. So it's like it's cool that we get to see that part of him as fallible, you know, like he has flaws. He doesn't know everything. There are things that he's struggling with.
Yeah. I agree with you.
I think like the whole like this is where I come against a challenge, because I love the Silanagus storyline so much, and I enjoyed learning that history of it. But because it's in the third book, it feels really out of place.
Yeah.
But if we had it in the second or the first book, I feel like there would be way too much going on.
Yeah.
Maybe in the second book, so instead of focusing so much on like the Crystal City and all that sort of stuff, because that did feel like it was dragged on a little bit, maybe introduce that in there. Maybe that's something to do. However, in the second book, we get introduced to Jemisin, so we have those two different storylines going on, and maybe it would have been too much if we had it in the second book. Who knows, right? Like, this is a decision that the author and the publisher has made.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So yeah, my next X, and I only have two left.
Me too.
But my next X is the journey to Renias that we have. Essen's journey to Renias. Everyone's left you know, we're going on this big journey. They pick up some people in this weird cavern place, and they cross the desert, and they find some other things, and then they actually get there, and then like Renias is this different way, and they have these buildings like this, and blah blah blah. I felt like that entire journey was unnecessary.
I totally agree.
Right?
I could not agree more.
What was so frustrating for me is because it's funny. It was written in such a way that I felt like I was on this plodding journey with them, you know, so it's written very well.
Yeah.
But so much of it is too much.
Yeah.
Also, alongside that, for the whole first book, Essen is purely motivated by finding her daughter.
Yeah.
It's what pushes her beyond things. It's what makes her fight back against stuff. It's what makes her kill people. You know, it's a driving force for her. Then we get in the second book, you know, she's still wanting to do that, and she waits, like, you know, she when she connects to the obelisk gate, she's like, oh my gosh, that's where Essen is.
Yeah.
That's when Nathan is.
Yeah.
And then in the third book, she actively makes the choice to like abandon her daughter.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess I like it partially because the journey that she goes on there, it's like she has like this realization about herself is like, you know what, I'm really not a great mother, and apparently like Shapa's doing a great job with her, and what's gonna happen to her if I do show up, and blah blah blah. And I feel like it's very realistic of what a lot of mothers or daughters have.
Yeah.
Like sort of a mental or an internal dialogue of like, okay, well, would she even want me to connect with them? However, the answer to that, I mean, not necessarily always yes, but the answer to that is almost always like, well, you're not going to improve your relationship if you stay away.
Yeah.
Right? So, and she hasn't told you to stay away. You literally just made that assumption in and of yourself. And so she goes on this massive freaking trip. And it's part of me wants to yell at her character because, like, part of it is like she's staying with this community, but she's really not helping them that much. Like, she does help them in a major way when they're in the desert or something like that and they're getting attacked, and so she tells them what's going on. But, like, she's staying with this calm, and she's actually not helping them very much. It's really more so for her, like, her own comfort level or whatever, or because she's connected with a couple of these people.
Yeah.
And she can really leave at any point in time, but she's delaying it. And it's just like, it just feels not necessarily unnecessary, but you could totally have like her wake up on the road, and like there's a moment that I feel like this might even have been written this way, and then she changed her mind. But like there's a moment she wakes up and she's healing and all this sort of stuff, and then they decide that they're going to go through the desert or whatever. She could have taken that moment and been like, okay, I'm going to find the amethyst because we know that she can connect to that. Or she can at least like sort of fess where things are, and I'm gonna go that way. And I have Hoa here, and he can just transport me over there, and we'll figure it out. Like she was doing for the whole of the first book.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden in the third book, that's not good enough to
Yeah.
find her daughter. And she was just grasping at straws in the first. It's just like it's super frustrating.
Yeah.
Because it's a large portion of the book.
Yep.
And it really made this book feel like it was dragging on. And I found that for a couple other people too. I read a couple other reviews, and they're like, "Look, it's a great book, but it really feels like it's dragging." And that's a big X for me because it did not make me want to pick up the book and read more.
Yeah.
Like it didn't.
I just, like I said, in the middle, I'm like, I don't think I can do this. This is really testing my patience. So my next X is Asun. Not Asun. What's the mother called? Asun Nasun? Esun. So Esun.
With an E.
Okay, Esun. Okay, and this whole plot of the calm being the leader. What's the leader called? What's her name?
Yaka.
Yaka. and the whole why Yucca is mad at Asun. All right, so she's mad at Asun. Okay, so basically Asun goes to Yucca and they have it out. Like, why are you upset at me?
Yeah.
And then she goes around the right, the camp, and then finally she walks away, and she's like, the reason why I'm upset with you is because you only think of yourself. What? Dude! That explanation is bullshit. Because if she didn't do what she did, you all would have been dead.
And she literally lost an arm to it.
And she literally lost an arm for you guys. And her boob. And part of her boob. Well, all of her boob. And that explanation doesn't make a lot of sense. She's like walking away. I'm upset at you because you only thought of yourself. If I would have heard, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Because all of you are alive right now. And if I didn't do anything, you all would have been dead. That doesn't make any sense. That, per what we learn at the end of the Obelisk Gate. That doesn't make a lick of sense. That reasoning is total bullshit. I don't buy it.
I mean, I think. Oh, for real.
Oh, sorry. Okay. That's my next X. It's just the reasoning for Yaka, because their relationships have been. I'm quite honestly shocked at some of the writing in this book, because it's almost like this book is trying to parody what happened in the first two books, and it doesn't do it either of the books justice. The writing for the most part of these two characters are written really well. The dialogue, the reason why they fight with each other are all really smart, and you're like, yeah, I can see that. But their exchanges in this book, a lot of it, especially the why Yaka's mad at Asun, doesn't make a lick of sense. It really doesn't. It really, really doesn't. Especially because they had a plan, and she knew what the plan was, and if she just thought about herself, she would have been out of there, man. She wouldn't have killed all those Stone Eaters. She wouldn't have killed all those guards. So you're mad at her because your Crystal City is no more? Is that why you're upset at her? Like, I don't understand. I really don't understand some of the exchanges in this book with the both of them. So that's my next X, how Asun and Yaka are written in this book. It just, a lot of it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, like, so what I was going to say with Yucca and like that answer there.
Yeah.
I feel like what it could have been is, she's saying one thing, but she means another. And it's left to the reader to, like, sort of read between the lines of that. But the way that it's written isn't really clear on that. And I feel like there is a conversation. I don't have this in my notes, so, like, I don't necessarily know. But I feel like there's a conversation between, like, Tonki and her, or Lerna and her, where it's like, yeah, she's not actually mad at you because she thinks that you're selfish. She's mad at you because you hurt yourself and she loves you, kind of thing. And it's like, people do that. I feel like it's written realistically in terms of, like, the reason why you're mad doesn't make any sense. Like, you're not being logical, but, like, people aren't logical, right? Like, when they're emotional, they're not. And they might not even know why they're upset. And so they pick something and they just go with it. So it's great to include that in dialogue and that sort of stuff, but sometimes it gets way too confusing when you're relying too much on, like, hey, she means this, but she doesn't actually.
But that stuff needs to be explained. Like, I mean, like one of my first exes, some of the stuff was explained way too much. Some of the stuff that we maybe didn't need to know a lot about it was explained way too much, and the things that we really need context to wasn't explained at all. Like that exchange, the nuance was so minute that if you weren't reading between the lines, then it would have went right over your head.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so my last ex. Okay. Lerna. The character of Lerna and the fact that Essen has a baby with him.
Yeah.
Again, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I get it sort of makes sense in the story of like, yeah, they've been having sex and clearly they haven't been careful about it, and she's like, it's brought up that like she's emaciated, she stopped like menstruating and all this sort of stuff. It's sort of brought up to be like, oh my gosh, this desperation of the desert is so much, but it just feels really thrown in there.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Right? Like, and it doesn't really inform a lot of stuff. Like, I feel like it's thrown in there to give Essen a little bit of like, what's the word for it? A little bit of
character development, or
not character development, but like some like tension.
Yeah,
like,
tension.
Do
Yeah.
I go out with my daughter or do I not? Right? And she
Yeah.
has this whole inner dialogue and stuff. So it does sort of make sense in that. But it's another one of those things that you didn't need to have in there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come to anything either.
Especially
Like,
when
they
both
have
of them are,
conversations.
spoiler, dead.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's like, well, they died.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I realized as I was reading this is they go through the earth and like they have this battle with the stone eaters, which they don't even really realize is battle until they're on the other side. And Lerna is killed.
Yeah.
And I realized at the moment that Lerna was killed, and like Essen is having this like, oh my god, what the fuck? Lerna's character is really like not very present. Like he's sort of this like complacent character. He's a nice guy. He gives Essen what she needs. He gives her comfort. Like there's some minor sort of plot points that go through him that are like helpful, and like there are some sort of things along that line. But he's really like, and it's disappointing to realize this too, because the side characters that are in this book are well developed.
Yeah.
And NK has such a fantastic job, or does such a fantastic job with developing characters.
Yeah.
It was just sad for me when I was like reading this. I was like, oh, like when people die in a book, you're supposed to be like, there's supposed to be that connection. You're supposed to feel that gut punch. You're like, no, not that person. And when that happened, I was like, okay, next. Like, can we move on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was like the fact that she has this baby too, and she's taking these risks. Like, it did not matter for the story. I felt like Lerna himself really wasn't a fully developed character, which is sad to say.
Yeah.
And like it bothered me, because I was like, okay, cool, you're pregnant. This literally has no bearing on the story. Yes, it does have some bearing, obviously, but like you didn't need to have it in there.
Yeah.
And like Lerna dying, I mean, I guess you needed to have someone die on this journey in order to make it more like, oh, this is a dangerous journey kind of thing. They're actually like, they went through a battle, but like if that's the case, like kill Tonki.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that because I love Tonki, but like
Asun is gonna die anyway. So I mean, I wouldn't have killed anyone. She was gonna die anyway. I mean,
yeah.
And that would.
It's just like,
yeah.
It irritated me so much, because I realized that as we were here, like when she was like, oh, I have a baby with him, I'm like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Like, and it really seemed like Lerna was just kind of like this side piece that like Essen's getting off with, and it's good for her, but like it didn't really have a lot of bearing on the story.
Yeah.
He didn't have much of a character. It was frustrating to read.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my last ex.
All right. So there's actually 2 more X's, and I'll go through them quickly. My second last X is the ending. the ending is so anticlimactic that it really made me angry. Really made me angry. You spent this journey getting to know Asun and Asun, okay? Getting to learn about these characters and their development. And then it just kind of ends. And I'm sorry, you've done such a good job with both of these books. You really, really needed to finish that up in a way that somewhat, you're not going to satisfy everyone. And I understand that. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I know, because I'm a Stephen King fan. I've read a lot of his books. So I know about endings. Trust me. And you're never going to satisfy everyone. Okay? But have a conclusion to that. And you don't. You don't. Why even, I was like, my head almost exploded. It just kind of ends with Asun just fading away and saying, that's my daughter, I'm really proud of her. Okay, goodbye.
Yeah. The end. I liked how they sort of tied up some loose ends at the end, and then like the very end, it was Essen coming back, right, in the form of a Stone Eater or whatever in the Geode. I don't know how much I liked that.
Yeah.
Because it was sort of like,
yeah. It just ends.
It looked like this. It was sort of like, oh, it's all happy ending.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And
it's just anticlimactic. It's almost like you're a train. You're going a million miles an hour, and all of a sudden, right, you hit a brick wall. And all of it just ends. Like, all of this, it ends in a way that it doesn't satisfy me. Like, you just kind of light with it. And you're just like, okay, the last thing, the mother fades, and Hoa talks to Nasun, and Asun gets reborn, and that's it. Okay, bye, we're done here. And the reason why I'm upset, if we spent 2 books and it was not good, I wouldn't complain, right? I would just be like, oh, this is our ending to not very good series. But the first 2 books were so amazing that I had no doubt. I had trust. I'm like, oh, she's going to be able to wrap this up. And she doesn't. She just does it in a way that it's very anticlimactic. It's very hokey, very hammy, and it's just very ham meat. And it's very, the ending, if you didn't tell me M.K. Jemisin wrote this whole book, I wouldn't believe you. Because this is, for a lot of it, I was reading it, I'm like, this doesn't read like an M.K. Jemisin book. And so that's my second last check mark, the ending.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. It wasn't, I thought it was sort of like, it was pleasant, and I don't think I would describe M.K. Jemisin's writing as pleasant.
Yeah.
So I will say, I don't think the ending was like, for me at least, wholly unsatisfying that it made me want to like throw the book away. Like, it concluded things, it finished up everything was tied up. You could see like sort of offshoots happening, like the story still continues in a way, but we definitely end on like this, like, okay, that's done kind of thing.
Yeah.
and she definitely wraps things up.
after you put so much work in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if for instance, if Asun and Nasun just had one night together before all of this happens, I wouldn't be this upset. Because then they would have a proper conclusion, right? Or something like that. But it just ends. Everything just ends. And for me, it wasn't pleasant. For me, it was like you had a lot of threads up in the air still. You had a lot of threads up in the air, you know? So, like I said, that's my second last check mark. All right. And my last check mark, X. And my last X is the relationship. There's a lot, but I chose this, LB. I chose this. The relationship between Hoa and Asun. The pseudo-sexual relationship I didn't understand whatsoever. I didn't get I tried to go back, and it's just like, I don't understand that. At one point she's like, she has feelings for him, and then she says something else, and then she touches him in a certain way, and then he kind of eats her breast, and then it's like, I don't understand what's going on. I really wish. And because that wasn't fleshed out enough, like it should have been, that's my last X. I mean, there's a lot more, but just to wrap it up here, that's my last X.
Yeah, that relationship is weird. And it's like, part of me gets angry at it too, because like the very, very end, Hoa, like, she's like reborn from this geode or whatever, and she actually like recalls herself, which I have an issue with that, because it's like, okay, Alabaster, we saw him show up as a stone eater, but it was sort of like explained away, like, okay, well, he's still like, it could take like eons for him to actually get back into his, you know, like his personality or whatever. And he was like a super strong origin.
Yeah.
And then you've got Nasun, and then all of a sudden, like from the thing, she's knowing what's going on. And then he's just like, she's like, what do you freaking want? And he's like, well, I just want a partner in life or whatever. Like, I just want someone to spend life with. You can say no if you want to, kind of thing. But it's like, she's like, well, okay. And it's just, like, it pisses me off, because it's like, part of me wants to be like, you have been freaking grooming this person and like making sure that, like, it's just so manipulative.
Yeah.
It's not in a way, but it also is. And then it's like, that's really her only answer, is to go that way, because elsewise, like, would you still help her? Probably, yes.
Yeah.
We understand Hoa is like this nice person, but it's still like, it's a piss off. And it's just like, how we were introduced to him too was like as a child, and it's kind of weird. Like,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. All right.
So hey,
By the way, the book I had just to throw in there, the book's too short, so I believe it's 15 chapters, right? Like 15, 16 chapters. Huh. Yeah. 15, 16 chapters. So just throw that in there, and I just don't know why this book. Usually, I say movies and stuff, you know, when they're too long, they're too long. This book was way too short. It could have standed to be maybe a couple more chapters long. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I disagree. It was way too fucking long.
All right. So we'll agree to disagree on that one. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to.
We need to give it a recommend.
Yeah, we do. That's what I'm gonna say. That was what I was gonna say. We're trying to give this up a. So it's time for us to give this a thumbs up or thumbs down, a recommend or not recommend, I'm gonna start off. On my final thoughts, and that's right. So if if you took the title, if you took the author's name away from this book, and if you just let me read it and you're like, okay, I would have said M.K. Jemisin didn't write this book because she's a smarter writer than this. And then I couldn't believe it. It's almost like, for me, a parody of those two books, a bad parody, a bad fan fiction. And I hate to say that because the first two books were really fucking good, LB. Really, really fucking good. And, I see reviews online praising this book, and sometimes I don't understand and I don't get other reviewers. I just thought this was a very poor written book. And was stated why my check marks and X's. And I'm going to have to give this a thumbs down. I'm not going to recommend this book whatsoever. And that's a shame because I love the first two books. And I would have... if you said you're going to hate this book, Caveman, I would have said you're lying, get out of my studio. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to recommend this book. I'm going to give it a thumbs down for all the reasons I stated and more. You?
Okay, so I'm going to say recommend. And
Okay.
This is probably the first time that we're actually disagreeing on
Yeah.
The reason why I say recommend is because I realize we are super critical of books as we go through.
Yeah.
The first two books were phenomenal. I would say, if you don't want to read the whole trilogy, you don't have to. Just read the first book, but you're going to want to read the rest of the trilogy.
Yeah.
I think it's written still really well. I don't think necessarily that it's not N.K. Jemisin style. I think there's definitely parts of it where it's it can be changed and there's things that can be made different. But it's still a really good book. It's still a really good story. You still have emotion. You still have really great world building. You still have really great character development. I feel like if we were to judge this book outside of the expectations that have already been built up from the previous two books, I feel like we would have different opinions of it.
Oh, yeah.
But because of our expectations are so damn high from the previous two books, then this book, it's a bit of a letdown. It's a bit of a disappointment. But only because we're reviewing it. If I were to say, recommend a series to a friend, definitely read this series. It's a great series. It's got great characters in there. There's a lot of different things that you don't normally see. There's representation of trans people. There's representation of, the LGBTQ plus community. There's it's written by a Black female author. It's a great book. There's fantastic magic within it. It makes some really great parallels to society and really good arguments, and kind of does what I think good nonfiction should do, or good fiction should do, or fantasy, or whatever you want to say. And it makes you think. It makes you think about the world you're living in, and what things you can possibly change about it. So I would say recommend for this book because it's a recommend for the entire series. And I don't think you can read just the first and the second.
I agree.
And not read the last one.
I agree. I mean, I recommend the whole series. It's just, for me, I read it 2 more times just to make sure.
Did you?
Yeah.
No.
I read it 2 more times.
That's the thing, though. I say recommend, but I'm I don't want to fucking read this book again.
Exactly.
Right?
I had to make sure. Because my feelings were bubbling up, and I'm like, okay, make sure, Caveman, make sure. I read it 2 more times. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I hate this fucking book. Yeah. But that's good. I mean, that's good. That's first time in page history that we have different opinions. First time, LB.
Yep.
All
I
right.
know, right?
Yeah. All right, guys. Oh, we wanna shout out our Patreons that might be watching this for the 38th billionth time. Hello, patrons. This will now for those of you that before we go here, we have a Patreon tier called the Library that you can watch full episodes of the page episode 3 days after 3 days after the air date, with the lead-in shows edited out. So if you don't want to watch us goofing off and trying to figure out what's going on with LB's curse, yeah, go check out our Patreon. We're gonna leave a link down below in the comment section for you guys to go and check it out. But that will do it for us. We need to go figure out what block series are going to be covering up next. And I have a great idea. But I will be letting you guys know what we're doing in the group. So guys, until tomorrow, and tomorrow is our one-on-one in the Echo Chamber episode with Paul Ashley and John Stewart. So you might want to check out that 6:30 p.m. Eastern. So until next time, guys, she's the beautiful and talented LB. I'm the caveman. Take care, be safe, be well. And I always say, I love you guys. 50,000. Peace!
Finish.